Hello and welcome again to Red Gaming Tech. My name is Amata. Today is still the 29th of July and this time I have some news for you regarding Rust and a little bit of drama, as the developer FacePunch Studios has actually stirred up a little bit of trouble by announcing a prototype for a new game by the name of RiftLight, which is an arcade space shooter with action RPG elements. Now, you might guess people's concern with this. To be honest, it was my first thought as well. Rust is an unfinished game. It's still in early access on Steam. So how can FacePunch work on a new game when the other one isn't even finished yet? And in a blog post written this morning, the leader of FacePunch, Gary Newman, addressed that concern after some fairly colourful feedback. One such feedback read, quote, "How are you going to start a new game with the other one not even finished?" And then a slightly more interesting comment read, quote, "That's like taking a dump, putting that dump on standby and starting a new one with the old one still up in there." And then things kind of escalated somewhat when it was actually revealed that FacePunch has 3 other prototypes for games in development, as well as Rust and RiftLight. Now, Newman responded to these rather interesting comments, saying, quote, "Are we crazy? Are we doing it wrong? Should every person in the company be working on the same thing? Should HBO make one TV show at a time? Should Warner Brothers make one movie at a time? Our strategy at the moment is to hire talented people to make games they want to play. We're not asking you to fund this. We're not starting a Kickstarter and begging you for money. We're funding it. We are spending money Rust and Gary's want to make this. Arguing that we should be reinvesting that money back into those games is like telling Apple they can't spend the money they made from iPhone and Macs to fund the development of the iPad." Now, of course, money from Gary's mod did go into making Rust, but some fans may be a little bit irked, and Newman said, quote, "We funded Rust for 1-2 years before it actually became what it is. You bought early access to it. When you buy a pizza, you aren't funding Domino's, you're just buying a pizza. It's true that the sales of Rust have been insane and we have stepped up development to suit, and you only have to compare the experimental version to the live version to see that. And have no fear, Rust will still be updated very regularly, and the people who are currently working on Rust will still continue to do so." And Newman said, quote, "They're not working on prototypes. That should be very obvious by the dev blog posts we post every Friday." And then he concluded, "I am guessing that a lot of game developers bigger and smaller than us have multiple prototypes in the works, but they aren't showing them to you. The only thing that makes our situation remarkable is that we're willing to talk about our process and show our experiments." And then there was actually a little bit of an update from the FacePunch boss, Gary Newman, basically clarifying that only 0.04% of revenue from Rust went towards developing prototypes for other projects. And then he added that the studio staff consists of 25 people, with 5 working on prototypes of games independent of Rust, and none of the people, as he said previously, that were working on Rust have been taken off it to work on something else. To be honest, I think the most people's concern here is that FacePunch, as you just heard, is a fairly small team, you know, especially when you compare it to the massive monolith AAA developers. Now, if Ubisoft announced, well, that they're working on more games at once, no one would bat an eye. In fact, they are, of course. They've got Far Cry 4, Assassin's Creed, and probably multiple other things going on that we don't know about, and no one bats an eye because, well, they're a multi-billion AAA developer with probably hundreds of staff, so no one really cares. But when an indie developer, which is what FacePunch essentially is, announces that they're working on more than one thing at once, one of which is an early access title, you can see why people might be concerned that they're stretching themselves a little bit thin and that Rust might actually suffer. And, well, you know, it is early access at the end of the day. If you ask me, their focus should be to get it into full release. I can see why people are a little bit concerned, to be honest with you, as they are a small team, and they can say how no one's been taking off Rust, but you could argue, well, those extra staff could be basically, well, helping get Rust into a full game faster. Now, I'm not saying I know game development, I really don't. I'm just saying I understand why people are concerned. Whether or not this ends up affecting Rust, well, it kind of remains to be seen, but it might, to be honest, and it might affect Rust's relationship with the gamers, and of course FacePunch's relationship with gamers as well, as people maybe might not be so eager to trust them with their early access Kickstarter money or what have you in the future, given, well, that they might be concerned about them stretching too thin. Anyway, do let me know your thoughts and opinions on this topic below, and I'll see you next time.
you.